So this is something I saw on a Facebook group about buying property in France. It is a snapshot that somebody's taken from a listing they saw online, and it's the DPE information about energy efficiency, and they asked for some help with trying to understand what it means because they'd seen the level at lots of different grades, and this one said that the annual energy cost was 3,000 a year, which they thought was high. And they were inundated with incorrect responses, which is something that you see quite a lot in these Facebook groups. So the first thing to say is that that figure of 3,000 isn't based in reality. That's what the computer program that the diagnostic expert has put in with the information they had available, and that's the figure that's standardized that it spits out. It does not mean that the person living there spends 3,000 a year on their energy costs. They might spend less, they might spend more. If it was a holiday home and they're only there a few weeks a year, obviously the cost is going to be a lot lower. It's still going to say 3,000 because that's what the computer program says it should say based on the information that's been put into it. So that's the first thing. It's just an estimate. You can ask for the current owner's actual energy bills to get a better idea of what they currently do actually spend. The rating G, yeah, it's the lowest one. What does that mean? Well, one thing it means is you'll get an extra report that the owner will have to pay for, and that will give you an idea of the cost to improve that rating. It's not a DEVI, so it's not a guarantee that you could do that work at those costs, but it's an estimate of the sort of work that you might need to do and what that might cost. Could be useful when you're considering making an offer. The other thing the G rating means is that if you were buying this as an investment, potentially for a long-term rental, you couldn't do that without doing the work. You can't use a G-rated property as a long-term rental. It's illegal in France. You'd have to improve the energy efficiency before doing that. So what else do we see from this? Well, there are also lots of people saying, don't buy a G, only buy an A or B rated property because otherwise it's too expensive. Well, that's good advice if that's your main criteria. A and B properties quite often are more modern in look, so they're more energy efficient. If that's what you're looking for, great. If you're looking for an older stone character property, the reality is they're probably going to be lower rated unless they've been really renovated, but then sometimes some of those renovations they've taken out lots of the character and they look like white boxes inside rather than the beautiful stone walls, if that's what you're looking for. And that's because that's the way that these standardized reports work. They don't really give any kind of rating for 4 feet thick stone walls. But the reality is, if you've got one of those properties, it probably keeps quite cool in the summer and you don't need aircon. And in the winter, if you're heating it up with a wood burner or something like that, it will also keep the heat in. But they don't give much benefit to those old stone properties unless they're renovated with more modern materials. The other thing that could have happened if it's a really badly rated property, and you'd only find this by asking for the actual bills or speaking to the owner, if somebody's renovated themselves and they haven't kept the receipts of the insulation and things that they've put in, then when the expert comes to do the diagnostic report on the energy efficiency, they have no way of knowing what's in there. They're not going to break open the walls or just believe what somebody tells them. They can only test what they can see. So if somebody's had the work done by a professional and they have the invoices and so on, they can see the renovation, what materials have been used, and then they can make the energy efficiency more accurately off of that. If somebody's done all the work themselves, they might have done a good job. It might be much more energy efficient than the actual rating suggests in the literature, but it's a standardized report. So, you'd have to do some more homework on the property if it's something that you liked. So the DPE, it's a really useful report, but lots of these things are standardized and you can't take for granted exactly all the information that's in it, would be my advice. If the property looks interesting, dig a bit deeper, ask some more questions. You might only get some of these answers after you have done the initial viewing though.